You're watching UATV News. My name is Ina Kosinska. Good evening. Baku and Yerevan are ready for new negotiations to resolve the situation in the occupied Nagorno-Karabakh. President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev and Prime Minister of Armenia Nikol Pashinyan stated this in their interviews to the Russian media. However, the parties are still unable to reach agreement on a number of issues. Yerevan believes that Azerbaijan has attracted mercenaries from Turkey to its troops. At the same time, the president of Azerbaijan speaks of possible supplies of Russian weapons to Armenia.
If the Armenian side finally realizes that the path of military provocations leads them to a disaster, then we are ready to suspend military actions and settle the question at the negotiation table, willing to halt the bloodshed and save people's lives. We are ready to resolve the issue politically. The conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh has to be resolved only peacefully. I am ready to exert all efforts to achieve such a result, including to go to the meeting, to talk. But we must all understand that the decision must be based on compromise.
The second round of talks between Ukraine and Iran on the Ukrainian International Airlines plane crash kicked off in Tehran. The Iranian side has already admitted the fact that the plane was shot down on its territory. Now the task of the Ukrainian delegation is to clarify all the circumstances of the tragedy.
Whether it is a human error or a result of the miscalculations in the system of organization of flights over Iran, our task is to find out all the circumstances. There will be 3 working groups for this: aviation expert, investigators, prosecutors, as well as the military.
The plane of Ukrainian International Airlines crashed near Tehran on January 8. 167 passengers and 9 crew members on board died. Later, Iranian authorities admitted that the aircraft was shot down by their air defense forces due to the mistake made by air traffic controller. The number of Ukrainians infected with COVID-19 has crossed 300,000. Over the past day, almost 5,000 more new cases. From now on, almost 70 cities, villages, districts, and even the whole Luhansk region began to live according to the rules of the red zone of the epidemic danger. Our correspondent will tell you more.
We witnessed the same thing that happened in Italy, and the situation with COVID-19 spread in Kharkiv is extremely critical, the head of the regional state administration, Alexei Kucher, said. Yet for several weeks, the Ukrainian Kharkiv region has topped the list of anti-leaders in terms of the rate of the infection spread. Since October the 19th, the regional center and several administrative parts of the region fall under the rules of the red zone, thus embracing the strictest regime of pandemic restrictions in Ukraine. 5 core hospitals no longer manage the current load of patients with COVID-19.
We already have the highest number of medical beds in the region, more than 3,000. Recently we have extended the number for a couple hundreds, and in case new 600 are installed, will be ahead of the nearby regions.
The regional outbreak has alarmed even those local residents who used to neglect quarantine rules.
Well, I think it's worth to strain efforts for a while in order to stop it, because it's getting scary.
The number of coronavirus patients has also grown in Kyiv. Capital's mayor reassures the city's administration has installed additional 2,800 beds in 22 hospitals.
19 of these hospitals are already admitting patients with the virus. 3 hospitals are in preparation, equipping departments specifically for patients with COVID-19.
A special infectious ward for the COVID-infected opened in the Dnipro city Mechnikov hospital. Now they will be also admitted in the therapeutics department.
So far, we assume this building for the primary treatment of those who have not yet proceeded to the stage when care in the intensive unit would be needed.
Straight from the green one, the Luhansk region got into the red zone of epidemic danger. The number of patients in need of hospitalization has soared in the region.
In course of 5 consecutive days, we had more than 75% rate of the hospital occupancy, so the decision was made to include the Luhansk region to the list of red zone territories. We officially deploy 50 more beds, and the percentage of the ill has already started to decrease. As of now, it slightly exceeds 71%. Overall, it's somewhere between 60 and 68%. Given that the number of beds will grow, percentage will decrease.
The occupancy rate of hospitals across the country has exceeded 66%. The Minister of Health, Maxim Stepanov, has drawn attention to the high-risk patient group, those who are older than 60. However, COVID-19 complications can cause even a child's death.
Ivano-Frankivsk region, this 8-year-old boy was hospitalized on Thursday night, immediately to the intensive care unit in a very critical condition with pneumonia, with very serious complications. He was put on a ventilator, but unfortunately he died on Saturday.
One of the most acute problems in the already overloaded hospitals is acute oxygen deficiency. In order to fill up the gap, the Office of the President has allocated more than $20 million to local budgets. Cabinet of Ministers is preparing to install mobile care facilities for COVID-19 patients in cities of Kyiv, Odessa and in the Donetsk region. Reported by Vadim Kramer, UATV News.
An outbreak of coronavirus in the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. According to Speaker Dnipro, the diagnosis was confirmed in 60 deputies. He called on not only deputies but also all Ukrainians to take a responsible attitude to the situation with COVID-19.
The situation with the disease is quite complicated, and first of all, it all depends on you. It depends on how honestly and consciously you adhere to all the precautions recommended. As of today, 60 people's deputies of Ukraine are ill or relapsed in the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Some have self-isolated themselves because they had contacted with both voters and colleagues who unfortunately fell ill.
A new PCR laboratory will open in Mariupol. According to Deputy Mayor of the city, 2 teams of laboratory assistants will work there to increase the number of tests per day. The test results will be available in some 2 hours. The laboratory will receive its first clients on October 22nd. Be Visible Light Up. In Lviv, young designers, together with the patrol police officers, presented a collection of clothing with reflective elements. The fashion show was held in the open air, and the passers-by were handed out masks with reflective elements. More details in the following story.
Jackets, raincoats and coats. It's a collection of clothing for women and men, and all the clothes are visible in the dark. Young Lviv designers, together with the police officers, held an outside fashion show to attract the attention of pedestrians.
There is a belt here made of reflective fabric, so we can be visible for cars in rainy weather.
The preparation of the collection lasted a month. Young designers have created nearly 24 different looks.
I have such a raincoat. It is original because it often rains in Lviv, and as a rule, drivers don't see the passengers.
Winter is coming soon, it is getting dark and people will be seen on the roads, and it will help for sure. Natalia is a teacher of the Lviv College of Light Industry. Once the woman nearly hit a pedestrian, so she became the initiator of the collection.
If I didn't go slowly, I wouldn't have noticed this guy. He was in a completely black clothing, and probably each of us had such situations.
Maxim did not pass by the show. He bought a special flashlight and a reflective collar for his dog. The dog is crazy to run, especially in the yards where there are cars, and unfortunately drivers cannot see it. So it was an idea to protect my dog somehow, because I'm worrying about it. According to statistics, more than 400 accidents happened this year in the Lviv region because of the invisibility of a pedestrian on the road.
If a person wears dark clothes, the visibility distance for the driver is 30 meters. If a person wears something colored, some bright yellow clothes, it increases to 50 meters, as well as in white, also 50 meters. And if a person wears a light reflecting element, the distance increases from 150 to 400 meters.
Young designers will also create a collection of clothes for children. In the meantime, everyone who came to the show got the present reflective vests, reported by Nick Starkov for UATV News.
40 years on stage, ballerina and choreographer Svitlana Kolyvanova is 80 years old. Her virtuoso movements were praised in Canada, US, Italy, Brazil, Poland, former Czechoslovakia and Germany. In honor of her anniversary, a personal star was opened on the Alley of Stars in Kharkiv.
The star of the People's Artist of Ukraine, Svitlana Kolyvanova, is the first on the Ballet Alley in Kharkiv. It was opened in honor of the Prima Jubilee, her 80th anniversary. Svitlana Kolyvanova performed the part of Odelia in this black ballet skirt and unique crown. The miniature dress still fits her today.
Here it is. Here this dress.
Ballerine stood on pointe shoes at the age of 10 for the first time. The last time was in her 50s. She keeps her shoes in this dress room.
Here they are. Look, even Kolyvanova is written here.
Svetlana Kolevanova has been working in Kharkiv National Academic Opera and Ballet Theatre for half a century. She will never forget her first visit to Kharkiv. On the way, she and her husband Teodor Popescu got into air crash, but they survived by a miracle.
Our landing gear broke down, then the engines caught fire, and we were carried out to Plovin. Thank God the hatch did not jam.
Svitlana Kolyvanova comes to the theatre every day and gives lessons to young artists. She keeps a firm hand on the trope.
She's demanding for sure. She's strict to us, teachers as well.
The next star on the ballet alley will appear in 5 years, to the centenary of the Kharkiv Opera and Ballet Theatre, reported by Nick Starkov for UATV News.
Unique cars and motorcycles of American, German and Soviet production in one collection were gathered by the Dnipro resident Alexei Prokofiev. In total, more than 50 vehicles. Each has its own unique story. Every second model is still on the move. Also, the age of the cars is from 60 to 90 years. This collection is in the Museum of Retro Cars, and it was opened right at the car wash.
A yellow blue Zaporozhets, which was called Hunchback by the Soviet automobile industry, drives into the territory of a car wash. The car is a part of the exposition of the Retro Cars and Motorcycle Museum. It was equipped in a large garage box. This car has everything original. The metal is obvious here. Discs, wheels, frame, hood, fenders. Everything else is a wooden body, the base of the body. Alexei's collection started with this car of the German brand DKW. The car was made in Germany in the 30s of the last century. 80 years later, the collector saw it almost broken. As of today, it has gone through almost the whole range of restoration works. It's completed. The question is whether it's necessary to paint it now, considering the fact that the car went through the war. We found this out when we were doing troubleshooting and dismantling the car. The right door was shot through. In the next hole is the BMW brand of the same age. This is one of the most valuable items in the collection. There are official documents for it, from which it became known that this car was used to bring mail to Hitler's Reich Chancellery. The car was accidentally seen in a rural yard, and negotiations with the owner were held for a long time. The grandfather came to the owner and asked if this car was in motion. He touched the radiator. It was hot. The car had just arrived. They were carrying geese on it, if I'm not mistaken. The man refused to sell it, but my grandfather tried to persuade him, went to him for almost all the holidays. And the unique Moskvich convertibles were produced in the Soviet Union due to the lack of high-quality steel, says the collector. On the side parts, sheets of thinner steel are needed. The iron is completely different, and the steel shouldn't be on that high quality. Therefore, these machines cost about 1,200 till 1,500 rubles cheaper than the ordinary ones. But after 5-7 years, they were broken. But these cars still on the move, like most of the museum's exhibits. Alexei decided to create the museum after his collection had grown to 50 vehicles, reported by Nick Starkov for UATV News.
That's all for this hour. More updates on our website, Facebook, Twitter and YouTube pages. Stay safe and good night.